I don't know how many people are going to be available to see Curtis 2 times in 1 week on the live. But for me, this thing and everything is always about people, relationships. Hey, hippie man, oh, where you at, brother? I appreciate your support, man. You have been with me for a very long time. It's crazy. I've known you maybe longer than I've known some people that are very close to me. So I'm grateful. Yeah, Bruce Lee was the man. I remember as a kid, the first time oops, oh man, I forgot the whole microphone thing. Man, some things never change. A tech boy. Oh wait, oh, I gotta plug it in. Yeesh. What a way to kick it off. Hold on. Man, I am screwing it up. Hold on. What a disaster. Anyway, guys, hold on. Hold on. Yeesh. Hold on. Hold on. Just the tech stuff. Touch spin. All right. There we go. Back. Some things never change. Hold on. All right. Can you guys hear me? All right. That was, man, I set this thing up like nobody's business. And I forgot the one thing, the microphone. Anyway, guys, I apologize. Some things will never change. What a bad start. Anyway, yes, Bruce Lee was the man. He was on point. He wouldn't forget to plug his microphone in. So, guys, I don't know how many of you are going to be here tonight. I know I've done 2 lives this week. So it's kind of a little bit of the off season. But for me, as I said in my silence, relationships are the most important thing. Hippie, I have known you for years. I've been doing this thing for now 4 years, and I think I know you, and I've been talking to you longer than I've talked to some people that I consider good friends that I've met recently. So I am very, very grateful. I'm very grateful for all that you give me. Yeah, tech. And you know what it is? I got ADHD, man. I get fixated on stuff. And I'm like so busy putting up all the images that I got that the most important thing slips by me. It is definitely, if you evaluate fairly, and I do, I am an airhead. I should have been born blonde. So, guys, I love the guys. Jason, Dirk Daring, Cody, my man, the guys that got the biggest heart on the planet. Joe, trying to help me out with the tech stuff, really has been so patiently able. I mean, this kid is a good kid. They show up with me on Monday. I know, I'm so tired of the tech stuff, man. I need a handler. My wife is so on point. She's got to deal with me all the time. But I'm doing this because, honestly, my evaluations, I always try to be fair. And I don't think I'm going to be doing this much longer. I think my sponsors might let me go in a couple of months. Not sure. I'm going to work my tail off. I'm doing a lot of stuff to stick to do this thing. But I've got to be fair. And I really just want to spend time with you guys. All of you have stuck by me. You give me a like, subscribes, but more importantly, your comments, your thoughts. When I was sick, I almost died. I got all these like beautiful messages. People remember things that I say. I really feel like I got a relationship with you. So I just want to spend time with you guys, but I'm also going to be covering Dolphins in a hard-coded way. I just want to explain a couple of things, wait for some people to get on. The base of the Dolphins has a certain desire, and that desire fairly is, look, my life, I got rough stuff going on in my life all over the place. I love this team. I want someone to tell me that this year is the year. And I can't do that. I can, if I see it fairly, I will say it. And I haven't seen it so far. I don't know about this season. I think there is always hope. I believe that you've got to evaluate year to year, but Dolphin fans are so desperate that a guy like me who maybe comes in and says things that aren't so hot to trot, aren't always so positive, maybe that's not the voice for them. And that's fair. I totally get it. So I'm going to be doing these lives to answer your questions, to talk to you, to let you know that you really matter to me. But I'm also going to cover real hard-coded things for like 5 to 8 minutes. I'm going to use those as my podcast going forward because I need to cover some other teams to see if my voice resonates with other teams because I need to stick. My sponsors need to see certain stuff. I'm still going to do podcasts for the Dolphins. They told me 2 years ago, listen, you got to call up other teams. And I said, I love this team. And for me to give the kind of coverage that I want to give to this team, I've got to invest. And digging into these stats and doing the things I do, for me, maybe for other people, it's a little bit easier. For me, it just forced me not to be able to cover all the teams. Unfortunately, the views have kind of gone down. And so the Dolphins' focus kind of was a double-edged sword. It would follow my passion, follow for the viewers that I cared about, but ultimately the support's not there. So I've got to try to find space in my time because I really love to do this. This is such a great job, guys. It's fun, and I'm trying to do my best, but I'm never going to quit being honest. Now, it doesn't mean I'm always right. There's great guys out there. Dudley Do Wrong, I think the world of that guy. People always so concerned about what people think and what their evaluations are, and then they judge them. Hey, I don't like what you're saying, but really it's about the character of the man. It's the character of the woman. It's the character of the person, because everybody gets things wrong, but who are they? And Dudley Do Wrong is a guy that has been very gracious to me and a very good guy. I don't always agree with him. Another guy, Alf from 3 Yards Per Carry, big dude. He supported me for a long time. And, you see his Twitter voice, and he could be hard. But you meet that guy in person, he is as good as you get. And he's been as good to me as possible. There's a load of guys, a guy like Reason, who I've been watching a lot more lately because I just didn't have the time. Good cover guy. There's loads of them out there. I truly, even guys that I banged heads with, I'm not going to name names. I respect all these guys for different reasons. But I want to do this thing. So I've got to kind of spread my wings a little bit. So I just want to let you know that. Understanding, some people were saying, well, Curtis, why don't you just do your own channel? And guys, you have to understand that this thing, I'll do a podcast, and I've done 20,000 views, like last year and the year before that. You get $20. I get 3 kids, 3 dogs, 2 cats, fish, and a wife, and me who loves to eat. It's just not financially viable. So I'm going to do my best to stay. I don't know what my sponsors' plans are, but if they cut the funding off, it's back to 9 to 5. So I want you to know, like, one brother kind of broke my heart. He said, you can't abandon us. You can't leave us at this moment. And it got to me, man. I'm like, really? I mean, me, like little me, that matters. And I had to tell him, I'm like, it's not that I want to leave. If I do, I'm not saying I'm going to. I'm trying everything under the sun within the scope of who I am. It's to be honest and to evaluate fairly, to stick. So I just want you to let you guys know that. So tonight, I want to do a couple things. I've got a bunch of concepts. This is going to be what I'm going to cover, the Chubb contract. I got a graphic for that. Current edge group. What does it say? We've got guys now that are here. And this, a lot of us don't like Greer, but he's positioned himself in a spot to do some things. But this current edge group says something. Then the 13th pick, when you look at what we can possibly have, it's going to be a stud unless Greer totally screws up. And I don't think he's going to. I think when you look at Greer, he can hit that 13th pick. But when you check his history of mid-rounds, that's going to be the key. This team needs a lot of fleshing out. So I'm going to talk about free agency, draft talk. Dolphins must win the offseason, but then I'm going to show you some other teams out there. It's not just us winning the offseason. It's how other teams win or lose their offseason. We're competing, and if we compete within ourselves and we win, that's great. But we've got a few teams to jump in order to validate this season. And then I want to talk to you guys about expectations for the 2025 season, and then really get into what's a winning season. But between each of these, I want you guys to say whatever you got to say, offer any questions. If you tell me I'm an idiot, that's fine. Let's talk about it. I believe in dialogue. And so that's going to be the full scope of tonight. I got my mic going. I'm hoping it's going to sound good. So that will be it, guys. I do appreciate think the views are going. Listen, I study macroeconomics. I study geopolitics. I'm very invested in a lot of stuff. I love to study. And views are going down. Listen, life is hard. And a lot of my viewers are like 40 years old or older. And at 53, man, I was an animal. I was 16 years old, 160 pounds, benching 245. And then when I got to about 185 for college, I was squatting for reps 480. And I was an inhuman person, and I thought it would never end. And the last 3 years, when I almost died, it's a scary thing to go into that final hour, or to people losing family members, people losing jobs. And so you want to find things that make you feel good. I just can't push things that I don't believe in. And I'm not saying I don't believe in this season. I didn't believe in the last couple of seasons. I reset my evaluations, and I was pretty accurate. I think some of it gets obfuscated by, well, there was injuries on the O-line. There's this and that. Ultimately, I didn't believe in that. But this season is a totally, totally, totally different season. And I don't like Greer. I think he's not a nice person. I think he'll stab you and cut you. But this is a new season. People learn. He's in his 10th season. McDaniel, I think he's a very funny guy. I think he's a nice guy. I think he's a genuine guy. I think he's in a very tough position, but I don't know if he's the kind of guy to lead the team. Steve, you're the best, man. You were the first guy to invite me on, and I am grateful. And Steve is just an aces guy. Like, some people don't like Steve because he says he doesn't like Tua, but really, again, it goes back. Steve is a guy who's legit. Steve came out after his evaluations of Tua, and I had Odiris come on, and he was very kind to do a lot of work with me. And I presented the information, and Steve was a true man to say, you know what? I still don't like him, but I was wrong about some things. Steve is a great channel. I had a great time the other night with Greg. You should check it out. Steve is a great guy. So I've got to be honest, and some people don't like that. This space is about Tua sucks, we're doomed, or Abel, my man, I appreciate you, man. You got a great heart. You're a good guy, man. I really appreciate it all. Dude, you gave me some great info over the last couple of months that I've known you. You're a good dude. This space is about fanaticism. It's fandom. And there's a place for that. Hey, it's just a game. This is not saving the world from hunger or stopping nuclear war. I get it. But for me, it's honest and fair and accurate football evaluations. But it doesn't fit so much in the middle. When I first started this thing, I was hot to trot. I was one of the biggest guys around. I had some of the biggest guys come to me. I was, some of the beat writers even mentioned some of the stuff I was saying, because I was saying things that the fans wanted to hear. Hey, this build with Flores, it's not good. But then when I said, hey, I didn't like the way Flores was treated, I'm not totally on board with Flores got dead bodies in the basement. Then all of a sudden it became a problem. When I said that Tua is not terrible, aside from the injury history, then you got some people who loved you because they love Tua, and then they don't like other people who hate Tua don't like you. And so it's this fanaticism, and it's very, very difficult to navigate that space if you're trying to be lock and jackpot. Yeah. What are the odds? 1 to 100% we find another UDFA that earned significant snaps this year. I don't like Greer. He's not too bad in the early rounds, although he's failed at that. He's very good, though, in UDFA. He's finding guys that contribute. Now, some of that, we have to remember, it's a pool. We liked Kohu and Needham, but that was Boyer. But he has found guys in the UDFAs that have been contributors. But it's his mid-rounds. It's his general design. So I think there's a chance, because of all the holes, all the lack of depth that we have, that we could easily find, because every year we find guys. We sometimes missed Peely, who I liked. I thought he would stick with us. We invested big on him, but we moved off him. But there have been plenty of guys that we have found in the UDFA, and I think he's going to. To me, though, this offseason is all about the mid-rounds. I think he's going to completely nail the 13th pick. But I think it's going to be good, better, or best. And it's going to get a lot of hype. It's going to get a lot of excitement, and it should. But ultimately, his mid-round maneuvering and who he picks is going to be the key for this offseason. So I do think he's going to find a UDFA that's going to contribute. He can't help it because this team is so thin. So that, I hope that answers your question. A lock and jackpot. I like lock and jackpot. I like jackpot. So I'm going to get into the first part, the segment that I want to cover, and it's Chubb. Chubb. Oh, I was going to get this. All right, a second. There we go. I only got 2 ports on his laptop. And so I can't, it's only 2 USB ports, and I need 3. So I got to use this stupid keypad over touchpad, and my big fingers don't seem to work well with it. So anyway, Chubb was a good move. It was a desperate move. It was a good move for the season, but it does constrict the future. But for this season, it was an excellent move. When you look at what we need run stop. We need somebody to counterbalance Chop, who is a good pick. Was it the best pick? I would disagree with that, but I think it's a darn good pick. He gets quick pressure. He snaps off the ball. He struggles, though, in run defense. But what does he do from year 1 to year 2? The sophomore season is usually the critical point to evaluate a player, to see how they develop. And so if Chop can get his run defense down and maintain what he's been doing with his quick pressure, add some moves in, because he's not really stringing moves together. But Phillips did the same thing. He had 1 or 2 moves. It was a typical young guy. And in year 2, he talked to a lot of different guys, and he started stringing moves together. And it was an unbelievable jump in his play. But he also boosted his run defense. So Chop is a guy you need to have hope in, but trust, but verify. But you needed a big guy on the other side. Chubb, he's coming off his 3rd ACL injury. I think it's on the same knee, but don't quote me on that. And his thing is, he's always been a little big, a little slow. He had a big season. People rave about the 2023 season. But remember, he had Phillips, who was unbelievable until he was injured. Then you had Van Ginkel behind him, who was playing out of his mind. Then you had Phillips, and then you also had Sealer, both playing exceptional. And then on top of that, Fangio was calling pass coverage defenses that slowed the clock down to allow a slower Chubb to get his pressures, to get his sacks. And so he's likely going to be even a little slower than that. He's not going to have the full talent interior. He's going to have Sealer and Chop. It's going to be kind of close. But we needed him because there are so many holes. When you look at your two guards, you look at your depth, you look at your second tight end, you look at your DI interior, you look at your second linebacker, you look at no safeties, and you look at no fullers. So you need a corner, maybe a third corner unless you bring Kohu back. There are so many holes that bringing Chubb back, it does offset a great need, and it pulls Greer away from having to focus on the edges and focus on these 2 or 3 critical areas, which is guard, DI, and cornerback, and then maybe safety, depending. So it was a good move. But here's the numbers. I'm going to show you the full image. Let me put my melon head off. Oh, that's what it was. I got to keep my face on here while I do this. Oh, dang. Is it better now? I got to keep my face on here. I was trying to give you guys a close-up view of this thing. Oh, what a yutz, dude. All right. Yeah, every time I pull myself off this thing, I guess you can't speak from the side. I am a total character. All right, so let's get back to it. So if you look at this video here, I'll say I'm trying to do this. All right, there we go. I'll start from the beginning. Man, I was I was hoping to make this aces. So, all right, let's start from the beginning. The Chubb contract, you could see in the green numbers here, it's base salary. It's totally movable. It means nothing. And you can see the bottom in the purple, 65.49 million. It means nothing. It's the prorated. And you can see in 2025, we owe $9 million to Chubb. 2026, $9 million. 2027 and 28 to a total of 45. When you basically, when you pull out all the money we've paid in his guaranteed money, you see over here to the right, it's the blue 27. This is what we owe Chubb. Now, Greer did a good move by taking that kind of pinning Chubb into the season, because he was going to have to pay him 27 and he would have no money in free agency. And so by keeping Chubb here, he's kind of pushed the money forward to next year. You can see the 18.5. If Chubb doesn't work out, you're going to owe 18.5. And if you cut him, it will become dead money split over 2 seasons. And so 26 and 27, you'll have dead money of $9 million. But if he's semi-healthy, even if he's a 7 out of 10, he's going to provide, because remember, look at Phillips. He is not ready just yet. So Chubb allows you the opportunity to kind of let Phillips rest a little bit. It gives you some run defense, and you're going to be losing about $10 million a year. And so what it appears, they lowered his base salary to about the minimum, which is $1 million plus incentives. He can fully earn that base salary of $19 million. And then you tack on per game, you tack on workout bonus, which totals about $21 million. Now, while this is a very good thing for this year, it does put us in $18 million in debt for the next 2 seasons. And if you figure that $2 million a year, $20 million a year, the cap is rising, half that is going to be chewed up for the next 2 seasons. And so the good news is that he kind of made some flexibility pre-June 1st for this free agency. He kind of said, you know what, I'm going to take $10 million and make it viable this year. I'm not going to just totally throw it away, but he's pushed things down the road. And so if Chubb does end up playing and he does end up producing, this bonus money will also get pushed into the future as well, because the bonuses don't count to this season. Now, next season, we have about $14 million plus whoever we cut, plus the $20 million. But even if he plays, say, 8 or 9 games, and he does pretty well, and he tacks on from that $1 million another $9 or $8 million, that's going on to next year. So he created flexibility this year, but he's borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. Hold on a second. Think cutting Hill next year gives them flexibility. It does, but then there's also the guaranteed money. And so they can constantly create space, but it does not eliminate the money that they need or that they've invested in guarantees. It simply says, I'm going to borrow from Peter to pay Paul. Can I have a hamburger today and I'll pay you Thursday? But right now we're 7th in dead cap at $30 million. This team's higher. Eagles are very high, like 65, I think. But what happens is if you don't build out your draft class, if you're not drafting young guys, then you've got to constantly go to free agency. They're going to be expensive. They're not the guys you want, and then you got to go back. And so you keep strip mining until ultimately you reach a point of implosion. And so, yeah, you can move off Hill next year, but there's going to be guaranteed money locked in unless another team takes that whole thing. And so if you look at our team, people will say there's no cap. What are you talking about? Well, the reason we moved off Hill, Hunt, and Wilkins was because we couldn't afford them. We had invested so much. There is a legitimate cap that forces you to make certain moves, but there is huge flexibility. But ultimately, when you guarantee money, or as you do now, you restructure and you restructure. What a restructure says is, I'm taking some base salary and I'm going to turn it into guaranteed money, and I'm going to take it off the books this year and put it to next year. So does that make sense? And so right next year, we only have 14 million. And while you might say you can get rid of Hill, you can lose Chubb's money, which you'll get money for, but then you're losing the player and you're locking substantial money. So for Chubb, you're going to lock almost 10 million in for 2 years. That's a substantial player in free agency. And the draft is rising. It used to be a couple of years ago, it was about 7-8 million for the draft. It looks like from Neil Driscoll, we're going to be paying between 10 and 12 this year. So it kind of creates a compounding situation, as that makes sense. You have to hit on picks. The NFL model, the current model, is designed for parity. And it's designed not for parity of the top, it's designed for parity of the middle. And that's where we've been sitting for a long time. And if you look at 2022, that was our peak talent season. And this year, though, would you say this is equivalent? And that's what you got to start judging. Ultimately, if you're not hitting on your picks, you're not getting players in the mid rounds, you're not striking big on linemen in mid rounds or players in the mid rounds, you're going to find yourself having a very thin and a few high point season and a lot of dead cap, and it's going to implode. But if Greer can find, like he did last year, those free agents, and he did a good job last year. He missed on the quarterback. He missed on the offensive line. But outside of that, he did an exceptional job. If he can do that this year, and then he can hit on the draft in the mid rounds, you could see this team being successful. But what is successful? So you guys got any questions? You guys want to talk about anything? Because I'm going to move on to number 2. And then I'll get into some of these other ideas. If you look, we re-signed Good to his tendered contract. We've got Chop, we've got Chubb, we've got Phillips. Phillips is likely going to be gone. We got Kamara. And so what does that say? We tendered Good, who's coming off a knee injury. He's not so good. It's going to be semi-decent, around like 800,000, maybe a million-ish. You invested about 10 to 12 to Chubb this year. You got 13 in Phillips. Chop's on a very reasonable deal right now. Kamara's on a very, but you've kind of said, you know what? I'm not going with these edge players. I'm not going to the draft for edge players. You really can't afford to with these openings. And so all these edge players says that maybe Greer's going to target an offensive lineman in that first round. Maybe he's going to target a cornerback in that first round. I think that safety, corner, offensive line, the value there at 13 would make it reasonable. I do think a trade back would be the best thing for us. There are some great, Keon Smith is not good as of last year. He was too weak, got pushed around, but I think they're seeing him as at least the 4th tackle. So does Greer continue his philosophy? I don't know. He can always move off Keon Smith. He can always cut him. It's not exceptional money. I think he might be a placeholder. I'm hoping he's not viewing him as a long-term solution. So I think clearly Greer said, hey, look, you know what? We got rid of Fuller. We've got no safeties. We've got no real guards. I think they're going to add one pretty good guard in free agency. Reason did a really good job. Check out his recent podcast on the cap with Neil Driscoll. I learned a ton. I didn't fully agree with Driscoll, but what he said is you can get, if you maneuver some things, you can get up to $68 million. And so there's an opportunity there to get these offensive linemen, to get a cornerback, to get some players. But again, what do you have to sacrifice? Everything is not bonus round. It's pay now and play later, or play now and pay later, or play now and pay later, or pay. You know what the whole deal. I can't think of it right now. You know what I'm saying? Either you're going to pay now or play now, and later you're going to pay or play. And thanks, brother. I'm a little discombobulated. Thank you, brother. Do you think Greer missed on Tua, Noah, and Jackson draft? Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's very nice of you, the $10, brother. I appreciate that. Guys, don't forget to like, subscribe. Every time I think I'm going to do this thing, I'm thinking I'm going to ace it. But I always get nervous and tech things come up. But thank you, Armando. I appreciate that, brother. Yeah, Greer missed. But why? What? So maybe he should have taken Herbert. Maybe he should have taken an offensive lineman. But he drafted Tua. Noah, eventually he developed. Maybe. I mean, he had a good season. It's been 5 or 6 years. That's not what you want from your 27th pick. And then Jackson was a reach. Everybody said it was a reach. But he was desperate. And Jackson's not that good. And you're paying him 12 or 13, where really he's worth about 5 or 6. I mean, you could get a veteran. Morgan Moses for years would have been a better piece for the Dolphins than Jackson. So, yeah, he missed on those rounds. But I don't even think that was so much of a big deal. He hit with Hunt. He missed on Davis. But then the following season, he doubled down with 2 picks for Waddle. He second and third in Eichenberg, a third for Hunt. And so it's I think Tua can play. I think he's not surrounded right. Was he the best? I don't know. Was there other options? Could he got Love and the offensive lineman? I don't think it was the best maneuvering. I would have liked to seen him, hey, look, you know what? We need Jackson. We need an offensive line. Let's just trade back. Let's see if anybody wants something. And he began at that point to accelerate his multiple pick expenditures. And so I think he missed, but he missed more importantly. He spent a second on Rosen. Somebody was telling me the other day, I forgot who he could have drafted. We could have drafted a lot of good players with that pick. He spent a third on Dieter. There have been multiple. Go back, type in Dolphins draft history, and you'll see he's hit. I mean, Achane was a nice find. Van Ginkel was a nice find, but we didn't stick with him. Hunt was a nice find. Wilkins was a nice find. But there was a big middle round failure. So I think more importantly, you could have drafted Tua. You should have known he had an injury history, not forced him in early, and then built an offensive line and run the football and take it off the table. So that's what I think. No, probably not. No, probably not. What was it? Detroit in that same draft drafted their receiver. I can't think of his name right now, in like the 4th round. And he's outplayed him. But it's not just – if Waddle was with the Detroit Lions, he would have been a lot more successful. He can play. He's not worth 2 first round. Very few receivers are worth 2 first round draft picks. I thought that was foolish. I think, if he had drafted Smith, traded up two spots like the Eagles did and got Smith, and he would have had more ammo, it would have probably been better. I think Waddle's been kind of held back because Hill's been here. But, you think about it. You spent a first and second on Waddle, a first, 2 seconds, and 2 fourths maybe or something like that for Hill. That's a lot of ammo for offensive line. Yeah, Amon-Ra, Abel. Thank you. My brain's a little off. My wife had me shopping for food all day. I wasn't able to prepare the way I wanted. So I'll blame her. It's always blame the wife. She's very easy to blame the wife. No, we've spent very poorly. We had tons of picks. Greer kind of thought we were on the verge of something, overspent. So no, he really didn't do a great job. But he did, I think, in if you're viewing what Greer's responsibility is, it's to kind of make this a reclamation project, to say, hey, we're not so far off the season. We're on track. And he's got to win a little bit. He's got to show something. Yeah, but he didn't need to do that. If you think about it, Amon-Ra was there. There was all the receivers there. That's the thing, is desperation is a dangerous trap. I would say that he would have been better served with Sewell. I would have said he would have been better served to build an offensive line and find yourself a decent tight end. I mean, I wanted to draft Kraft. You give me Sewell and Kraft and Zach Tom, and he'd have been fine, because receivers do not set how things are laid out. If you don't have an offensive line to block, to create balance, then they're just going to target those. There are no two better receivers as far as speed and big play potential than Waddle and Hill. And you could see this season, they were extinguished. And they were extinguished because the offensive line could not attack the A and B gap. They played too high. They played high leverage. And they played pass and didn't blitz. And so Grier, which is odd because he comes from the Parcells lineage, he believes in finesse and speed over size and trenches. And that was his biggest mistake. He shouldn't have, whoever did, rush to it in. If you look at Gailey in the offseason of 2020, he said, listen, to reporters, Tua will play when he's healthy and he knows the playbook. And suddenly appeared to be playing when Flores said, I'm not letting him in if I was his father, and he's not. And then all of a sudden, at the end of the season, Tua said, I wasn't healthy, my hip wasn't healed, and I didn't know the playbook. And Gailey wasn't consulted. So somebody above the coaching staff forced him in. And so then Tua began to have to deal with that. The 2021 offensive line was the 45th best offensive line in football. Waddle had a pretty good season for what he was able to do. So it really goes back to the development. You know, it goes back to the setup. It goes back to the framework. Oh, we could have had Jefferson, Ayuk, and Queen, and Joy. Yeah, there's so many picks that we could have had that he missed on. But, you know, that doesn't apply to this year. Maybe he learned. Maybe he understands a little differently. This thing that, you know, we don't know what he's going to do this season, but clearly in the past, he failed. You cannot spend 2 first-round picks when you don't have an offensive line, when you have loads of holes. It's not conscionable. Second, look at free agency pool already this year, not even a week. Like I said last year, Abel. Didn't I say that last year? I said, anybody who's chasing the receivers is foolish. You can find quality receivers. And in truth, it's better to have 2 or 3 B receivers than 1 A and 2, 3 C minuses and no O-line. Because as soon as that offensive line allows time or run blocks, then it starts opening things up. And Grier didn't need that. Smith would have been fine. Or 2020, Jefferson, he could have got Jefferson in 2000. Well, it was 2021 when he got Waddle. But he didn't see those players. And you got to slowly build inside out. Dolphin, a good viewer of mine, what is his name? Dundee Dolphin. He's a very smart guy. He worked for the BBC. And he showed me, he's like, oh, go look at McVay, not McVay, one of those GM guys, not GM guys, he's like the draft gurus. I always remember he's the second tier guy. And he started doing a whole dissertation breaking down all the top teams. All the top teams build inside out. They focus on defense. They take shots at quarterbacks, and then they start adding the top skill players unless a really good one's available. But we built conversely. So, Curtis, hey, C-Core, what's going on? My response was 2R minus 2. Yeah. It could have been much better. It could have been. But even if you had Jackson, let's say, and Tua and Noah, but then you drafted some other guys like simply Zach Tom over Tyndall and EZ, it would have offset it. You're going to miss. And there would have been big misses. But you've got to offset it. These guys all miss. But the mid rounds, Tyndall, look, Cam Smith, second round. Everybody said it was a reach. Cam Smith is the new Eichenberg until he proves otherwise. Tyndall was still stuck on him. And so, yeah, he failed. But he had Wilkins. Should have kept him. He had Hunt, who was a great pick. Should have kept him. But he has a tendency, Van Ginkel. How do these guys you move off? So it's a total package. You had Waddle. Don't go, hey, what are you, made of money over here? What's going on, man? Just like and subscribe. I don't want to break your wallet. How long would it take a rookie guard to gel in McDaniel's so-called complicated scheme? It's hard to say. It depends on the guy. Really good guards. You look at Nelson, who was phenomenal. You look at Sewell, who was phenomenal. It took them time. It takes time for these guys to learn. And so if you're gauging the season as I think my whole concept of putting up stuff and doing the recording is not going to happen. I'm just going to answer your questions. I'll deal with that stuff later in the podcasts. But if you understand that we're supposed to have success this season, you've got Paul, who's going to his second season. He's getting his first exposure. He's got some flaws to his game. You got Brewer, who I think he's seasoned. I think I would consider him a vet. He's got flaws to his game. And then you got Jackson, who's coming off a major injury. He's usually injured, and he's not very good. Are you going to add two rookies to those mix? I have to believe that my belief is Greer's going to spend a sizable chunk on one of the guard positions, find a steady Eddie, and I think that would be fine, and then draft the guy in that third, fourth round to develop slowly. Because if there's any expectations to win, if the season is about winning, then he can't come out slow. One slot I'm going to get into is, sort of. Remember, when it comes to Dolphins coverage, the focus is usually on the good stuff. I said at the beginning of the season, he needs to be surrounded by big guards. We heard how good he is with his PFF grade, which slowly kind of ratcheted down. We heard there really wasn't a big problem with him not being able to move people. And now at the end of the season, a lot of those people are saying, well, yeah, he can't really move people, but he's really good at the second level, and we need to surround him by big guards. And so while Brewer can be a strong asset if you offset his weaknesses, he has weaknesses. I think I did a stat that in red zone, in 5 yards to go, we were 19 for 19 in between the tackles. And some of that had to do with his inability to move people. So he's one of the best centers we've had in 12 years. It's not saying a lot because there's been a lot of Asiata, he's terrible. He's like a bad version of Brewer. I think Brewer's tough. I think Brewer's a fighter. I like that about him. He's not as weak as Asiata. He's not as weak as Dieter. But there's going to be complications with him until you offset it. And so I like Brewer, but he's got clear weaknesses. And when you pair him with Jackson, who can't move anybody, it creates a framework of softness. If you had Hunt next to him, it would have been a great pairing. And then you'd find yourself another physical guard to the other side to help on the doubles, to help keep him clean. It's a different story, but he does have a clear weakness in my opinion. But I do like him. I think he's way better than Dieter. He's not as good as Connor, in my opinion. He's better on the second level than Connor, but he's very imbalanced. Connor could move. He could block alone. He could drive guys out on his own. He was way stronger, wasn't as mobile. He couldn't get the second, but he still could. So I thought Connor in 22 and 23 before he was injured was a better center. But, he got injured and so we had to replace him. Well, that's it. What's the goal? I mean, Greer's in his 10th year. McDaniel's going to be in his 4th year. What's the goal? What was the goal? What's the goal for the season? Is it really, what is it? I don't know. I don't know what their plans are. I don't know who's going to be sacrificed if we fail. I think we have chances for success. I'm going to show you, but it's not just, I got my little sheet up there, but I'm a little discombobulated. It's not just about what we do. We got to take care of our own business, but you got Atlanta Falcons. You're going to play them in their stadium. How do they do? They're getting to be a tough team. Is the rookie quarterback going to play out? Bills. If we don't jump the Bills, if we don't pass the Bills, then it puts us in a very precarious spot because then you're constantly fighting for seconds. Panthers, they're going to be a little tougher than you think. Young kind of showed some stuff. They've got the offensive line. These are tough teams. Cleveland, I don't think they're going to be anything. Indianapolis, they beat us. It was without Tua. I think we got them. Again, New England. I think New England's behind us, but I wouldn't just dismiss them. They are creeping up on us. They've got tons of ammo, tons of picks. I like the quarterback. They've got a lot of holes. What do? Can they scrap out even one win from us? That really kind of hurts us. Jets, they're finished. I don't have any faith in them. I think they'll get better. I like Glenn there, but they're 2 years, 3 years away. But then we play the Ravens. We play Cincy. New Orleans, we'll see. Tampa, they're a tough team. People will say Tua can't play. Look what they did for Mayfield. Mayfield's not as talented as Tua. I think he's got more grit. I think he's got more sand in the pants than Tua as of now. But if Mayfield's had one playoff victory, I think, and he's gone to playoffs 2 years in a row, then we should be able to do that. It's a home game. It's going to be a tough game. Then you got the Chargers. Chargers is going to be very tough. Commanders, again, Patriots, and then Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh. What they did? I got no quarterback. So, but if you look at the teams, we've got to make the playoffs, right? Isn't that the goal? Or I don't think it's necessarily a goal. I think it's coherence. Can we get physical? Can we get guys showing up on time? Can we not constantly collapse? And then, then the second goal would be postseason and postseason win. We've got to get these things. To me, coherence is the most important thing. But nothing is given. Last year, we had the easiest schedule. Tua was out. Can we trust Tua? It's always a concern. But we've got to be able to beat these teams. But how do they do? If 2 or 3 of these teams totally wet the bed, then maybe we can get our goal. It's a crapshoot. We've got to take care of our business. We got to see how the teams take care of their business. It's not wise to not build a good offensive line. Freaking dude, The Last Dragon was the most rented movie as a kid. Oh yeah, dude, I saw that movie in the movie theaters. I had my gi on because I was taking martial arts. It was the greatest movie. I love that movie. It's funny. I did The Last Dragon with the glow, and I freaking forgot to put my microphone in. Typical Curtis. Typical Curtis. Yeah, he's going to build trenches, and they've got some good players. They've got some good players on defense. They got one offensive lineman. They got $128 million. They get more money next year, and they got the right quarterback. I'm not saying Tua is not the right quarterback, but Drake May went to the tent 5 times for his head, and they had no offensive line. So it shows you that if you don't take care of your trenches, then you're jeopardizing your quarterback. But they're going to be a tough team. They're going to be a tough team. They got Gonzalez. They've got the safety that I like. They're a little ways away, but you don't want to sleep on them if they build right. But if not, then at least we'll be in solid second place. I mean, who knows though? It's not. Captain D wants to join you soon on your live. Yeah, dude. Oh, definitely. He's got to come on. Should come on Monday nights. Oh, it's Tommy. Tommy, man. I kicked this thing off and I didn't have my microphone plugged. I need a handler, brother. I need a handler. Yeah, Captain D is the best. I love Captain D. You're the best too, Tommy. I always think about you, man. Good guy. He shouldn't need help with Tua behind him. What do you mean? Who shouldn't need help? Who shouldn't need help? I don't know. Who should need help? Armando, help me out there. I'm sorry I didn't get that. He should need help. Who should need help? Let me get down here a little bit. So I had all this thing set up, man. This whole live thing is rough to handle here. Let me see what else I'm going to talk about. So what are your guys' expectations? Hey, Armando, help me out. I'm sorry, brother. I don't get you. I apologize. What is for you guys a victory of the season? What do you think is enough to justify? What do you think that we're going to end up being? I think there's potential for us. I think if Pats lay an egg, Steelers have no quarterback. Do they get a quarterback? We play them. They're a playoff team. We're going to be vying for them. LV, do they get a quarterback? Denver, I think, is a very scary team. Is Denver. Texans, do they put their O-line together? Chiefs, they're missing an O-line. They need maybe receiver help. Ravens, I think, going to be tough. Chargers, I think, going to be solid. 10-7. 10-7. I think, for me, Tua. To me, Tua is a guy. He is. He needs a top, but he needs a center that can run block. For me, Tua is better served with an inside run game that will create the linebackers creating leverage, cheating leverage. So what we run is outside zone with no cutback, and all that outside zone stuff. It's not optimistic. I don't know. To be optimistic, if Greer hits on that 13 and he can find 2 guys in the mid rounds, he could pick himself up one solid. Remember, we had Eichenberg and Jones. They were bad. Eichenberg is terrible. How do you go through a season with Eichenberg? Jones is good for an inside zone, run-heavy team, but he doesn't fit here. Brewer, I think, can hold his guy. Paul, will see. Jackson's kind of But if you got a solid guard to pair between them and a vet, and you can stay healthy, it's a lot of ifs, if, then you've got Jonnu, we can put points on. If we can put points on, it could change things, but it's going to come down to the inside run game. And this defense, there's a lot of ifs there too. Does Ramsey stay healthy? Does Sealer stay healthy? But Brooks stay healthy? Chop stay healthy? And who do we get? I mean, you can get some guys in free agency and the draft to kind of help you out and be solid enough. I don't think we're taking the Bills this year, but 9 wins. And then you got 1 or 2 games left at the end of the season, and maybe you pull it off. Maybe you run inside. Maybe you don't fold like a cheap lawn chair, and then you start seeing the future. I wouldn't bet the house on that. But there's total possibility. Yeah, well, and that's fair. Alf said that too. He's like, if you want me to give Brewer a positive vibe, just think he played next to Jones and Eichenberg, and that's like 2 anchors. But if you look at its totality, we were the fastest throwing team by 1.3 seconds. The second team was 2.17. We ran 20% screens. We couldn't run in short downs. We couldn't run in the red zone. And some of that had to do with Brewer not being able to drive guys out. But it's the easiest framework. And I do like him. But you've got to get the right guards next to him. You've got to get the right guards. And, I talked about in my podcast, Kappa was signed for $11 million. He sucks. He had 8 sacks and 51 pressures with the Bengals, who throw fast. And he got $11 million for 2 years. So what does that say to you? It says that the low bottom end of the barrel is getting $5 million a year. And so a lot of these teams are going to be fighting for these free agents that we need. A lot of these teams are going to be saying, hey, you know what? Pass balance is the way. We've got to set this offensive lineup. We don't get 2-a-days. We need to up our talent. And so we're going to be chasing a big pool of guys, looking for these guys. And it's kind of a thin market. The good side is you could put my grandma at guard and you're getting an upgrade over Eichenberg. So we've got to see. But, ask yourself, to be fair, if Jackson goes down, what happens? What if Paul struggles? Everyone's like, say, oh, Tehran's gone, but Tehran blocked alone. You could leave him on his own. So there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that we've got to see. We don't know if Jackson can stay healthy and be manageable. If Paul can take a step forward, because he devastates guys. We run a lot of gap runs, and that means the tackle cracks down, and he erases guys. But what's this guard play like? Will they stay healthy? Will Tua stay healthy? Maybe if they do, he stayed healthy in 23, then there's possibilities. But we're so long from here to there. And even you, Tommy, with Allen, just imagine if Allen gets injured. All of a sudden, the whole game changes. So there's a lot of interesting stuff to go on. We got to see. We just got to take it one step at a time, one game at a time, 1 week at a time. Yeah, there's loads of holes. Hey, V, what's going on? Yeah, it's a good step for this season. But remember, when you restructure, what is a restructure? You take base salary and you convert it over to guaranteed money. Now, if you go check Reason's podcast out with Driscoll, he talks some really great stuff. You can learn a ton about the cap. How your salary cap only factors in the top 51. And so there's a lot of leeway for about, 30%. 60% can get locked in. So, as an example, Driscoll talked about, hey, restructure Austin Jackson. Okay, yeah. You can restructure Austin Jackson, get about $6-7 million this year. But what that means is that you're out from Austin Jackson gets farther and farther away without a hit. You can restructure. Who did he say? Who did he have at home? Let me check. I wrote it down. It was a good podcast. Check it out. He said his restructures was restructure Tua. I don't know, man. That's kind of crazy. He said restructure Brewer, restructure Austin, restructure Brooks, and restructure Sealer. Okay, restructure Sealer. He's 30 years old. I like him. But how many players, defensive tackles can last a while. But now you're going, hey, you know what? We're going to have guaranteed money at 31, 32, 33. And you might say, oh, restructure Brewer. But then that locks you in to Brewer, which is not terrible, but then it locks you into the play style that we like to run, which is outside zone and quick throw. And is that going to be good? Does that kind of inhibit another coaching staff who says, you know what? I don't like this offense. What if McDaniel flops this year? And you're like, oh, we got to move on. Then it pushes things forward. And in Jackson, you don't want to lock his. He's injured every year. You know, he gets injured now, and he's not that good. By locking him in, it's putting more and more dead cap. Brooks, I would sign Brooks long term. I think Brooks is a guy that you should build around. I think that was a wise one. But I wouldn't. I would restructure Sealer and give him more money, to tell you the truth. But I wouldn't restructure Austin Jackson or Brewer. Ramsey's got big money on the table. Hill's got big money. I wouldn't restructure Tua. So the restructure feels good this year, but ask yourself, if we didn't have this loosey-goosey cap, we could have signed Hunt and we could have signed Wilkins. But we didn't re-sign them because we didn't have the money. We couldn't invest that. So how long – I already said, I think Greer, it's not working, man. Are you kidding me? I would never stick with Greer. I thought Greer should have been gone years ago. McDaniel, I thought, was done wrong. You don't take a guy in – I've said it 100 times, but you don't take a guy in a booth and then make him a head coach and coordinator and say, win now. I thought that was crazy. I think McDaniel, like a lot of Dolphins players and coaches, they get left out in the lurch. Like some of Fangio, we brought Fangio in here and we didn't have linebackers, and it's key. You could see Vaughn, what he did for that Eagles defense. And then, you know, you had Greer shipping guys into his practice. Then we mock him on the way out. But, you know, we do that. We do it to Tua. We did it. Look, everyone makes fun of Jesse Davis. You got an undrafted free agent who was pretty decent at a guard. So you move him to guard, you move him to tackle, you move him to left guard, you move him to right guard, you pay him $10 million, you make him left tackle, he injures his knee, and then you ask him to protect to his blind side, and then you take your first round pick of Austin Jackson, your second and third round pick of Eichenberg, and you put them on the left side and you slide protection to them. Like, how crazy is that? And we do it all the time. You know? I don't know. I don't know if jobs are on the line. I should be. My personal opinion is if we flop, Tua and McDaniel are going to bear the brunt and Greer will slide and be back next year. You know, I think that's the way it is. Is this Captain D I'm talking to? You the V podcast? Get me on that thing. No. That will never happen. He might go to the Raiders, though. They're looking at him. And so are the Giants. I think the Raiders should go with them. Justin, what's going on, brother? The Bears have already – yeah. I think they're going to go for Gianti. I think they're going Gianti. It would make perfect sense. That kid is special. There's so many things I've been learning about, you know, his play and stuff. So – basically, the way you can scheme up a run, it leaves one-on-ones. And this guy can break tackles. And what they do now is, you can see what they do to us. They play high leverage in the box. They play pass. And so you can't really do that with Gianti because he's such a good breaker of tackle. And the quarterback they have can kind of move. Fields, he can move. So if you really want to set this kid Fields up, they did a good job. Thuney, I don't know why we didn't get Thuney. Captain D, you're the best, brother. So I think they're going to go with Gianti. I would. With the offensive line they got and the defense they got and a quarterback that needs settling down and it can kind of move, you could do so much stuff with him. Where is it? Cam Ward's going to be very good. I don't know. I haven't really watched him. I like his personality, though. He's everything Shador is and isn't. He's got the brashness, but he's got the seriousness. I like Cam Ward so far. I don't know about his play. I've seen his arms phenomenal. I think the guy is shown to be clutch. I think if he gets the right scheme, if he gets the right framework, he could be. I'm looking forward to him. I like him. I don't like Shador at all. I mean, I'm sure he's a decent guy, but I don't like Curtis. We have to see what happens with free agency, but if they address the guard position, offensive line, what would your pick be at 13? Oh, I think they're definitely going to do that. I would be, again, I don't want to keep bringing Reason up, but I'm sure he's always had good thoughts. But recently some of his ideas have been capturing me. I can't say the dude's name, but the freak performance of that free safety, I can't remember his name, Noirl. I could see that at 13. Some people like the other guy. I can't remember his name now, but we need that Joker role. We need that guy who does all and plays all. Now, Noirl has some issues. He's slow to react. He's not the best tackler, but it would probably have to be defensive. I think I had it over here. Let me check. If you look at the team, no, I didn't put it up here. My thing is offensive line is a big piece of the puzzle for long term. But to get by this season, you could get a couple of solid guys that are balanced. Maybe they're not the best at being on the move, but they can move guys inside zone. They can move guys a little bit in the red zone. They're vets that you can depend on. They're not going to wet their pants like some guys that we've had, and they're balanced. And you get them in there, and they stay healthy, and they tie in Brewer, and you can kind of have Paul be your strong side that you can be some dependability. It's not going to be like Tehran. And then you can roll your help to Jackson, and you can get – because if you look at 2022, Tua had 235 clean time, 75%. And look what he did. Why? He was blitzed 25 to 26% of the time. And if you can't get there, let's say you can get to 217 or 220, and then you can get a blitz rate of like 22, 23%, and you can run inside a little bit and you get legitimate play action. You don't get vacating the A and B gaps. We could be fine because the jump from Jones and Eichenberg is vast to average. So if you got average guys that stay healthy, you'll be fine on offense. But when you look at defense, DI is a big hole. But you got Sealer, and you could find guys in the mid rounds. I loved Grant. His 22 bench kind of shocked me and pushed him off a little bit. But there's guys you can find either in free agency or the draft to kind of fill out. It takes guys a little time. Wilkins, it took 3 years. But with Chubb here and Brooks and Chop and Phillips developing later and Kamara and Good, you got enough on the edges to slow things down. But safety and cornerback would be my prime go-to positions because if you don't get a top free agent corner, then what do? Oh, you bring Kohu in. He's not a boundary cornerback. Ramsey is your boundary corner. You could do all kinds of stuff, but he's injured every year. He got nicked up last year, and he looked a little slow towards the end of the season. He's a year older. You've got to get yourself a top-flight corner. And if not a top-flight corner, you can scheme around it if you got a stud safety. If you got like the dude they got over in the Ravens, that big safety they got to play now they got him back at safety, but he played the Joker role for them. He was like kind of like the nickelback. But you could play coverage schemes with an okay corner if he's a vet. But really the easiest thing is to get that cornerback, to pair him up with Kohu in the slot and Ramsey, and then find some guys on the back end, get a solid vet. Look at what the Bills did last year. They went to the conference championship, and they had Rapp, who's slow. They had what's his name? Hamlin. Is that what his name? The guy got, had the terrible heart attack, and they had a rookie. And they did really good because the way they called things up. So, but you got to have that cornerback. And I hate to get Tommy his head a little too big, but they found Benford in the 5th or 6th round. Audio? Audio again? I'm at the back here. Oh, I'm at the bottom. Oh, okay. I got lost. I was already at the back of the top over there, man. Thoughts on Holland leaving? He should go. He should be gone. He should be out. Don't waste your money on him. Yeah, you too, brother, man. I miss you, man. You're a real good guy, dude. You're a real good guy. I really appreciate meeting you. Yeah, we'll get back soon, man. Let's see how my dog's doing. Oh, they're doing good. We almost got a 4th one, but it didn't work out. But it was good because my wife, who says she's never gonna get another dog, saw a dog in the paper. But we got there, and then my one dog, he doesn't like all the dogs, and it didn't work out. But then somebody who came to get him picked him up right after. We had a 4th dog, and I can't afford that right now. Frozen, there's my guy, Dirk. There's a few plays I'd be okay with taking at 13, but really, if we have an opportunity to train, that's the best. Because there's so many good guys in the 20s that we can get. That's been my number one option from the beginning. Warren and run 12 personnel. Maybe, but we're in a real bad place on defense as far as our secondary. And if we're not able to slow guys, then we got to play chase. And that's a little concerning. Will Freeze. Yeah, Will Freeze is a guy I like. But he's had one good year. They moved him around a lot. He's had some injuries. I think, he's a little bit of a risk. And I think that the reward is high. He could be a huge piece for us if he stays healthy. But if you go back to it, you've got Jackson, who's always injured. Then you're going to pair him up with another guy you can invest big money in who's been injured a little bit. And he's a little small. He's 305. And he's kind of tall. He's like 6'6". And, you think about, what that means. So it's risky. If it plays out right, you could you could win big. But do we have a great chance with injuries? So I don't know. It's risky. It's going to take luck and acumen to have a successful offseason. Sorry, guys. I was going to lay this thing out better. I had all of my takes. I'm going to just forget about it. I'm just going to do it in podcasts. I'm not able to juggle it all with my hand on this keyboard thing over here. So yeah, but it's going to take a lot of luck, guys, and it's going to take some other teams to wet the bed, because if the Steelers can find a quarterback somehow, it's not going to be good for us, because we've got to overcome our issues and then overcome these other teams. But there's possibilities. It's a long way from here to there for the Vegas, for Texans, for the Bengals, and KC, man, they really gutted that offensive line. There's opportunities. We got to see how it plays out. That's why the best thing is just to take it one step at a time. Just evaluate one step at a time. Backup QB, a huge issue. You can't trust Tua. Stay healthy. It's hard though, because again, we've created this framework that is so niche. And so in order to run this offense, you either need a guy who processes super quick, which is very hard to find, or a guy who has great quick release and who kind of throw on the move, on the jump, the way Tua does. If not, then this offensive line will rise in prominence. And that's why Skylar had a tough time. Skylar's with the Steelers now. It'll be very interesting. You look at the majority of the league, their clean time to throw is 2.35, 2.4. And we're 2.04. It's almost half a second. And so we need a backup quarterback. But again, what I always say is if you uplift this offensive line, then you don't need you can come into a game and say, let's run this damn football. Our backup quarterback is going to throw a couple of times in key moments, and he can throw the football at 2.25, 2.30. We get some legitimate play action. It makes everybody's life easier, Tua and the backup. But, it's just a very hard uphill battle to get people to understand the value of the offensive line. It's just very hard, and I don't know why. If we upgrade this offensive line, we get, that kid from the Colts who we just talked about, and he stays healthy, and you can find another vet, that's a huge upgrade at this guard position, and you could do a ton of things. Maybe you get the cutback on the outside zone. Maybe occasionally you boot guys out on the inside in the red zone on 3rd and 1, and then everybody's cheating on the pass. But it's the offensive line that's going to drive this thing. And so whatever Greer does, it's ultimately, as I've said for 4 seasons now, and I'll say it again, this season will hinge on the offensive line and how he fills out this secondary. Those would be the 2 things that I think are critical. Backup quarterback, Jets did pretty good with Mike White. They almost beat the Bills that year, But then he came here and he was garbage because we just couldn't. And they had a bad offensive line too. But, you look at all the teams like KC, they bring in nobodies and they kind of win some games. You look at Minnesota, they drafted a rookie. They had Darnold, who sucked, and he took them to the playoffs. Went to bed in the playoffs. That's a whole different story. It's the offensive line to make. You don't need to have top 5. You need Jackson to stay healthy. You need a solid guard. You need another guard on the other side. You need Paul to develop. And you need guys behind him because one of them are going down. There's very unlikely that all the guys that we have on the offensive line are going to stick and through the whole season without an injury. So it's depth and then those positions. But if you could do that, just think play action with Jonnu and another tight end on the other side. You don't even need Warren. Go get Taylor, Jason Taylor's son. Go get one of these veteran guys out there who's pretty decent at blocking, better than Smythe. We stuck with Smythe for so long. So that'd be my whole deal. I think I went on a little too long, guys. I'm sorry. I opened up with the broken mic, and I had a much better idea as far as this layout, but I got to get back into the practice. I'm so used to having all my awesome guys on. I haven't had to practice doing this. So that's it, guys. I'm going to keep doing this on Thursday night. I'll try to get better. Yeah, draft. I say draft. Hey, Armando, thank you, man, for that kind contribution. I appreciate that. Draft heavy defense, not the money. Man, do it 10 firms. I would say fend for himself because you saw Mahomes, the great Mahomes, get ripped and look like a joke. He had 45 yards at the half. It's offensive line. It sets everything. If you got 15th, let's say you got 15th level offensive line, protection, they're balanced and they're 15th, then it's on the quarterback. Except if he's facing like an elite team, and then you got to judge it that way. But we've had bottom 5 every year. And there's no way. You go look at Marino. When Dwight Stevenson went down to when Webb and Sims were drafted, Marino sucked. Go look at his numbers. It was a disaster. He looked so pedestrian. And he had some nice touchdowns, but there were so many interceptions. He didn't win jack. But then magically, they draft Webb and Sims, and all of a sudden, everything went boop, and he was ready to go in 90, 92. It's all offensive line. I just don't understand why it's so – I was a running back. I ran behind good and bad offensive line or good and bad blocking. And it's why Dan always bought the Isotonic gloves. Somewhere along the line – ESPN and maybe Dolphins media said the offensive line is not valuable. You don't need top 5 or even top 10, but you surely can't have bottom 5 and bottom 10. So anyway, guys, I appreciate everything. I hope I answered all your stuff. I'll be better next week. I'll get my chops on. It's been a couple of months since I did it like this. I'll have the mic put together. But like I said, this might be my last couple of months doing it. So I just want to hang out with you guys and do my best to to represent you and to say thank you for everything you've done. I appreciate everything, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. You're the best. I'll be back next week and have better glow. Go to saying be well. Good night. Love you guys. You're the best.